Hey guys, Kevin again. Luke Cage, Season 1, Episode 5, just to get a rep, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. I have been loving the show so far, and especially because the last episode was a flashback-heavy episode, I was definitely looking forward to getting more into the story, and damn did we ever, because while this episode was more of a transitional episode, where it's setting up a bunch of things, this was still such a great episode. I loved what was going on here. And it is officially Cottonmouth versus Luke Cage. I'm loving every second of it, but let's just get right into it because there's a lot to talk about in this episode. There is definitely a ton that happened, but not a lot of substantial stuff. But let's just get into it. We see Cottonmouth right away. Of course, he was missing from the last episode, and they really make up for his screen time in this episode. I mean, Mahershala Ali is so good in this role, and I've said it a million times. He's so good, but this episode especially, he is just mastering this role. I mean, he is fantastic, and he honestly, I think, is right up there with Wilson Fisk. I really think he's that good. So, he's in the opening scene. He's watching a performance of the underground classic Long Live the Chief. I don't know who was singing it, but they were very good. And that's interspeeded with a scene of Luke, who's basically become Harlem's resident trash collector. He's obtained all the trash and rubble from the building, and it seems like he's collecting it along with Pop's swear jar and anything else that means, that is of significance to him. And basically, we see Misty is among the few. Everyone's taking picture. I mean, Luke Cage is pretty much like a superhero at this point. Everyone sees him as like this celebrity. So we then see Claire get off the subway, and yes, we haven't seen Claire since Jessica Jones, but Claire's actually a main character in the show. I didn't know that, but Claire is a main character. This is the only, Jessica Jones, I guess, is the only show where she's not a main character, but she gets off the subway and is walking down the streets and is immediately attacked by a man who attempts to mug her and takes her purse, but she beats him down with it before he can. I thought they did an incredible job with that scene. You see her, she's walking down, she's all positive and happy, and then the second that she feels somewhat comfortable here, she gets mugged, and I think it just brilliantly shows that Claire is not in Hell's Kitchen anymore. She is in fact in Harlem, which is a much more violent place, and it's pretty crazy for me to say that Hell's Kitchen is like heaven compared to Harlem, because it really is. And basically, Misty looks through there, and she's able to beat him down with it really good. I mean, she really did beat him down, and Misty then looks through the trash that Luke has obtained, one of them being an old picture of someone. We don't know who it is, but obviously it's an old picture. I believe it was of Riva. I couldn't really tell, but during a meeting, we see everyone seems to be scared, so I thought that was a very way to start things out. So Cottonmouth then holds this meeting about Luke, and he says that this is the State of the Union, asks Darrell how they're doing after Fort Knox, and Darrell basically gives him straight that there's nothing to let be. He's broke. He has his real estate, Mama Maybelle left in the club, and he and Mariah share the deed on her old brownstone, and he knows he has some cash, and Cottonmouth says he's got at least 25,000 lying around. So Darrell says that Fort Knox hurt, and he lost 7 figures 7 times over, all of his cash profits from the corner stash houses and drops, and he still has stocks and club profits, but the streets are talking, and if Luke is still out there, and another shareholder named Coco talks about how he's been reading a book on politics and the social conditions that created hip-hop, he suggests to let Luke have one of the areas of the street, and they take theirs, and Cottonmouth literally shoots him in the head. Like, he does not care what he has to say. He's going to do things the way he thinks it needs to be done, and honestly, while Cottonmouth obviously, is very rational at this point, you do kind of understand where he's coming from. I mean, Luke has come in here. He's not from Harlem, remember. This is just a place where he's kind of hiding out at this point. He's hiding out, and, he's hiding out there to, because he's trying to get a fresh start. He's been there for about 5 months. He has not lived there, though. He's not lived there his whole life. Cottonmouth, in fact, has, and I thought it was very well done. I really enjoyed that overall, and I think they very much showed the contrast between those two in this episode. So he then sends his men out to remind everyone in the streets that they still belong to him. They earn their money back by robbing from the rich to force him into action, and Shades asks if he thinks they can he's going to recoup $7 million, just like that. Cottonmouth says he doesn't know why he's back there, and Shades says to look around, says he knows damn well why Diamondback sent him, and we get a lot more mention of Diamondback in this episode, and it definitely makes me think we're going to see Diamondback very soon. I don't know when, but definitely he's going to be coming up soon, and He tells him about the Fort Knox and says it makes the Junkyard Rip look like amateur night at the Apollo. Cottonmouth says Luke is trying to prove that Harlem don't need him, and they need to see how badly he wants that crown. He tells everyone where to go, and if anything happens to blame Luke for it, that Luke is the reason why this is happening, and he tells Zip to call Mr. Spurlock, tells him that they're going to need his services, and then they start the heist, and there's this huge montage of many being robbed, and they're stripped of their money and jewelry, and it's just absolute chaos. I mean, they don't care where it came from, who it is. I mean, there's this girl that Zip knows, he doesn't care who it is. I mean, it's really hard to watch, honestly, but at the same time, you kind of are happy for Cottonmouth because he's getting his money back. So it's, again, Marvel does a really good job in these shows of getting us to care about the villain just as much as the hero, and because we care about Cottonmouth, we kind of understand why he has to do this. I mean, yes, it's an unjust situation, but there's really not much else he can do. You know, he has no money, he needs to keep this club open, and the only way he's able to keep said club open is by having a, you know, sufficient amount of money, which he doesn't have right now, and I really did like seeing. So really hard to watch, but interesting stuff there. Luke then meets with a tailor named Dapper Dan, who Fish enlisted to give him the proper suit. Dan talks about how he saw him on TV last night, and Luke says that he's blessed, and asks him about Mike Tyson, and Fish says that everyone is looking out for him after the building thing. Luke says today he's strictly about Pop's memorial, and Fish says sitting everyone in this thing is going to be the toughest move he's mastered since the Black Mirror Demur Gambit, and he has to put up Estelle up front because she's been with him the longest as far as the neighborhood knows, and they need to keep her far away as hell from Charlene. We don't know who Charlene is, but he says that he's real sly and moves like a bishop on the diagonal all times, and now they have to both steer clear of Candy, who they both think it is his cousin. She rubs everyone the wrong way except for Pop, who she rubs the right way every Tuesday and Thursday at 9:45. Luke says that Shaft had nothing on Henry Hunter, and Pop was a Mac, and Fish says that if that's what he wants to call it, and that's a big part of this episode, is mourning Pops and talking about the legacy the Pops had, and really how he kept this shield over Harlem. But now that Pop is gone, the shield is broken, and there's not really a way to protect it. Fish feels that, and many other people feel that Luke is the person to be that shield, because he kind of is a shield, but you know, we don't really know. Fish says if that's what he wants to call it, says he would want him to have his own apartment downstairs since it blew up, and Luke says he will adjust to it somehow. Fish says they fix this place up, and the door's gotta open, and Aisha comes in, a whole fury. This is the woman that had her father's ring stolen, and she talks about the Lenox Avenue. Luke asks why, and she says she doesn't care why, but he needs to get her father's ring back, and all that's left of him is that ring, and the only reason he didn't pawn it is because he took it away from him, and someone has to remember his legacy. Luke says he will get into it and see what's going on. She says he says that he needs to check them. Everybody heard about what he did in the projects, and she tells him not to be some punk who will just stand by, and she leaves, and Fish says it's a different kind of chess gambit, and Cottonmouth figures if he can't drop him, he'll get Harlem and push him out, basically, is essentially what he's going to do. So Fish asks where he's going. Luke says he's going to make sure that Cottonmouth spells his name right. He goes outside where he's bombarded by dozens of townspeople, and I mean dozens. I mean, these are all people that were robbed by Cottonmouth's gang and blame this on Luke, and are trying to tell him what's going on. Luke says he's on it, and Claire goes to meet with her mom, Soul Dad, and it appears that this is going to be the most in-depth look at Claire's character we've had yet. And honestly, I think it's all the better for it, because so far, Claire's been a character that she's popped in and out of Daredevil. She was in Jessica Jones for an episode. We haven't really gone into her character much. You know, we know that she obviously was a doctor who's pretty much seen it all and very much cares for these Inhumans, but this, I think, is really the first show where we really get an in-depth look into her character, and I think it's very well deserved, because she is really the thing that connects all these series together, and better than ever in this episode. I mean, that's never been more true than what we see in this episode. So she goes to meet with her mom, Soul Dad, at the restaurant, tells her she was robbed. Soul Dad asks her what she was thinking, and Claire says that she was thinking she wanted her bag back, and Soul Dad says he could have killed her. Claire says she grew up there, and if you don't fight back, they'll make you into a doormat, and she says she taught her that, and Soul Dad says things have changed there. Claire says they've changed everywhere, and Soul Dad asks if this is why she's come back home. Claire says she wanted to come back where things made sense, and basically that, you know, she kind of like Luke, she wanted a fresh start, which is interesting. So Luke is asked for Les Paul's location, takes some of Cottonmouth's goons down. He stumbles upon one of the thugs he encountered in the first episode, the one that smartly ran away, and despite getting shot, he keeps his snitching principle around Luke, says he's going back to Raleigh and has had enough of this shit, and even him, you know, someone like this thug who seems so tough, even he can get shot. I think they're doing a very good job at just showing how bad of a place Harlem really is, because it's a horrible place, and Luke is then told he needs to focus on getting the ring back. He has to understand that while her father was sick, she came in the streets by herself, and she's tougher than she lets on. And Luke asks if Aisha shot him, and she says that he was with Zip, and he laughed at her and talked trash about the ring. He asks where she got the gun, says she pleads the fifth, and Luke asks where she is. She says the check on to shot on Saint Nick, and if she's not there, his guess is as good as hers. So he's then met by Misty and Scarf, and they ask him to identify the photo. He says it's his property, and Scarf asks if the woman is the reason rockets keep getting dropped in his head. Luke says a good cop would ask the person doing the shooting that question, and Scarf asks what's going on between him and Cottonmouth. Now, we know why, obviously, Scarf is asking this information, because, he's trying to get information or report back to Cottonmouth, and, again, knowing that really makes a lot of Scarf's, motivations and things like that. It makes a lot more sense that way. So, Luke explains how he fired him, and Misty says this chaos has to stop because innocent people are getting hurt. He needs to either be a part of the solution or leave. And he says he'll leave, but first he has to do right by Pop. And that kind of makes me think that he's going to end up leaving at the end of the season, and that maybe by the end of the season will be, because obviously his house connects to Defenders, so I'm guessing he's going to leave, but she asks if he's going to Pop's memorial. He says he is. She says not to, and we don't know why, but she says to not go to it, and Shades then tells Cottonmouth to let this go. Cottonmouth refuses. Shades says it makes him look weak. Cottonmouth says that he can't ignore him, and Shades says that he can't let this dude drive him stupid, if only helps his name ring out like he used to, and Cottonmouth asks him what he would do. Shades says to sell this club. He can net $3 million easy on the real estate alone, and basically that's the best thing he can do is to sell the club. It's just not doing him any good. It's too much, and Cottonmouth says that is not happening. No one black has ever done anything like this. Percy Sutton came close, but that was years ago, and Harlem's Paradise is special, and it's not going anywhere. This really does mean a lot to him, and I like that we saw that. I mean, this isn't just Cottonmouth being a dick. It really does mean something to him, and Shade says it doesn't he doesn't make the right moves. Now he is done, and Cottonmouth says that this place's reputation, his blood, and his legacy, and he then realizes that Luke is there, and we get this awesome scene where Luke shows up, sees everyone there. He refers to him as Dishwater Lazarus and asks him if he wants his old job back, says it costs to be a savior, and Luke tells him he started all of this. This is him finishing it, and Kama says he just wants Harlem. It's expensive, and Luke says he doesn't want it. He just wants him to stop messing with it. He doesn't want Harlem all to himself. He just feels that Cottonmouth is causing a ruckus, which he is. And Cottonmouth says this is his home. He doesn't know a damn thing about it. He hails his men easily. While Shades recognize him for the first time, calls him Carl Lucas, and that scene is just so satisfying. Seeing those flashbacks there, I think they really did a great job of connecting that, and especially seeing Shades and Luke meet in that time. Now Shades knows who he is. I don't know how Shades was so easy to tell, but I thought this was a very interesting scene. I really enjoyed that. So Cottonmouth goes to him. Luke says it's called deductive reasoning. If a rocket launcher couldn't stop him, a little pea shooter won't. And Cottonmouth asks if he wants to go to war. He says he'll take him to war, and Luke says he doesn't have enough people and the mob isn't deep enough. He says to ask Shades, who says he's supposed to be dead, and Luke says he can't kill him and says to keep his name out of his mouth. Cottonmouth asks what he'll do if he doesn't, and Luke just walks away because it doesn't matter what he's going to do. I mean, he needs to be warned, and I thought that was a great scene. Cottonmouth asks if he knows him. Shade says a long story. Cottonmouth says he'll make time. And Claire's then out of the restaurant playing with a salt shaker. Soledad tells her not to do it. She asks if she's worried she's going to spill it. Claire says she's so superstitious, and Soledad says she's not. Claire says there's more to this than that, and Soledad sits down, and Claire says that there's this middle ground that is unexplainable. There was this group of men who attacked by mask, and the one she had took down had a scar, like from an autopsy, like he had died and come back to life once before. And I don't know if she's talking about Iron Fist, but I kind of got the sense that that's what she was talking about, because we know that Iron Fist wears a mask, and I don't know, I just kind of thought she was talking about him because we know she's got to connect to that somehow. But she says she took down, the one she took down had a scar, from an autopsy, like he had died, and come back to life once before. His friends broke in and killed someone named Louisa, and the hospital wants to cover it up, saying that a junkie stabbed her and she was going to the cops, so they gave her a choice, but it wasn't really one. And Soledad says she's glad she came home, and Claire says she kind of had to. Metro General pretty much made sure she can't work anywhere else except in New York, which is interesting to see, and I thought overall it really does give this vulnerability to Claire. She's not completely someone that is going to pull off every surgery. This clearly did not go well for her, and obviously this did not go well. So Soledad asks what would make her happy, and she tells her about Matt and then tells her about Luke and says that they both need her help. She thinks that that's what she wants to do, is help people with abilities, and this is the perfect example of how they connect all these series together, because we know that all 4 of these series are eventually going to be Defenders. We know that, you know, this is the second to last chapter before we get to Defenders, so they have to start setting things up, and this very much reminded me of what they did with Nick Fury, where he was the link that linked all of those movies together. Claire Temple is the Nick Fury of the Netflix series, if you will. You know, that's how I see it. So Soledad says she knows what Robledo said about these things, and Claire says she knows she doesn't believe in that Centuria mumbo jumbo, and Soledad tells her the world isn't the world anymore. Aliens coming out of the sky, people with silver hammers, green monsters, of course she's talking about the Avengers. All she knows is everything happens for a reason, and now somehow she's somehow a part of it. So she asks what she called that, and Claire says it's the worst luck in the world. Soledad says it's called fate, and I thought it was just a really well done scene, showing that Claire, you know, she's going to try to have a fresh new start, and she feels like her best, you know, shot at this is by taking care of Inhumans. I think is the perfect place for her, and definitely makes sense how she's going to be connected to this. She didn't mention Jessica, because I don't think she met Jessica yet, but I'm sure she will in Defenders. I mean, this definitely shows she's going to have a huge role in Defenders, and I'm looking forward to that. So Shades tells Conmouth about Luke/Carl. However, he believes that Diamondback has a bullet that can in fact kill Luke. It's made from the same metal from the Chutauri attack, and since it can kill Jesus himself, it's called the Judas. So there's no reason why this couldn't kill Luke. And Shade says he gets it by asking Diamondback to handle Luke for him. Conmo says he doesn't need Diamondback to handle his problems and asks how much for it, and it's a large amount of money per bullet. Conmo, and, you know, basically he tells him he can either pay for it as Diamondback, and Conmo says he doesn't want to ask Diamondback, but it's obviously a large sum of money. So he says Diamondback confront him, he's good for it, and Shade says he won't give him a dime. He's made too many mistakes, and Conmouth asks if he told him that, and Shades asks if he has to, and Conmouth says he'll call him himself, and Shade says he's not the same Diamondback, and if he does do him this favor, he's taking Harlem from him, and Conmouth says he'll get Domingo his gun, square everything away so Diamondback can front him the loan. Then he'll kill Luke so shit can get back to normal, and tells him he has to make a few phone calls, and this is really setting up what's going on here. I can't wait to see the way this is going to go down, because already I'm so into this. But again, they really are moving through this story quickly. I don't know if that's saying that Diamondback is going to play a more substantial role in this, or if Diamondback is not going to, things not going to go well for Conmouth. But I really do feel that Conmouth feels he has everything set up, and it's not going to go well as he thinks it does. But we then see this very interesting scene where people in Scarf's precinct are believing he's not revealing everything, and it's because Chico was last seen with Scarf, and Misty isn't thinking much of it, but the other agents say it's against protocol and believe him to be very clairvoyant, and she says, but he's got Conmouth to worry about. When he's asked to bring in Domingo's guns, he wonders whether it would simply be better to kill the boss, and we see the people really are starting to get suspicious of him. Misty's not. You know, Misty feels like she knows what he's doing, and that he is just, you know, he's kind of her mentor, and that she's worked with him, so I think she wants to see the good in him. But I think as time goes on, she's going to start to get a little bit suspicious. I think now that she knows this, just like Luke Cage, she is going to start to look into it. I mean, Misty's smart. She's not dumb. We've definitely seen that, and she's very smart when it comes to this stuff. So I really do think she is going to start to get a look into Scarf, and this can't really end well for anyone except for Misty, really. So we'll have to see the way this is going to go. Luke then sees guys playing basketball and asks if they were at Crispus Attacks the other night. The other men leave, and Zip pulls out a gun. Luke breaks it with his bare hands. Such a badass scene. He picks him up, grabs him by the throat, asks him if he has Aisha's ring, tells him to think about where he is, says this is hallowed ground, and the park is named for Jackie Robinson. He lifts him up higher, says it's here, it's all around him, and if he respects himself longer, to take a look at their legacy. He takes the ring, puts him down, and again, such a badass move. He does in fact get the ring. So Luke comes back to give Aisha her ring, but she's nowhere to be found. All that's left of the clerk of the shop, Eddie, who is in fact her father, who I thought was dead at first, but we get this really great scene with these two, and I really like this. He talks about how they have nothing and says he's sorry what happened to his shop, and Eddie says that back in the day, people had respect, and he's seen them all come and go. It's always been wild, but people carry groceries for old ladies, and their name meant something. And now, that kindness is kind of gone. I mean, the world's gotten really dark, and it's just not really a good place anymore. Luke, and that's why people are relocating, because Harlem's just not safe. And Luke says he has to find his daughter. Eddie asks if she's still going on about the ring, says it ain't worth it, and Luke says maybe it reminds him of her better times back in the day. Then asks about his father, asks if he played the game, and Eddie says baseball is a game passed from father to son. That's why no one does anymore, because all the fathers are gone. He says Aisha was the one who had the idea for the shop and told him he could sign some autographs and keep his hands on something positive. He said that everything he touches turns to shit, and she didn't listen. Luke says to stop letting her down and says if she comes back to let her know he came by, and obviously, he's very sad about it. So Eddie says his name is all over Harlem today and not in a good way. Luke says he's about to change that, and Claire then sees a news pour about Luke is given information from a man who goes to the barbershop about him, and we definitely get the sense these two are going to meet up. Obviously, she's on the show. We know they're going to meet up somehow. We don't know how, but they're going to meet up. So Luke then goes to the funeral, sees he has a hole in his shirt, puts money in the swear jar, actually said shit. I thought that was kind of funny, but everyone's at Pop's funeral, including Shades and Cottonmouth, and Cottonmouth texts Scarf if he has retrieved the weapons. He doesn't answer. They listen to a speech given by Pop's son, and Luke informs Aisha he did his ass, tells her to take her hands out of her purse. Fish asks if anyone else would like to say anything, and Luke is about to get up, but Cottonmouth beats him to it, and he gives this big speech about how we find out Pop's real name was actually Henry Hunter, which I don't think we knew before, but Cottonmouth says that he was his mentor and oldest friend and taught him the streets the hard way. They don't remember the sound of his fist, but that's how he got his name, but he changed, he evolved, and Harlem does that to someone. Some people saw a war zone, but Pop always saw a pasture, a breeding ground for artistry and greatness. He says they were all roses from the concrete because of people like Pop, and says he believes whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and that's where they have to look at Pop's death. Says they never caught the shooter, but has faith that they are rotting in the depths of hell, and he says he misses Pop, and he promises them that even though they are being attacked on all sides from foreign interlopers and strangers with incapable abilities, he will stay true to what they have because that's what Pop would have wanted, which was a very powerful speech. But then Luke gets up, completely destroys him. I mean, this scene was awesome. I love the way this was done. Mike Colter just killed it here, and he says he asked Pop once why he didn't want people to curse in his shop or why they had to wear the ugly smocks. He said these kids need to see the man for the work every day and to be the presence of men in uniform putting in work. He says he didn't want to walk in late, but he was trying to do what Pop always did, help those in need and protect them from the forces that would do them harm. And at first, it was in fact selfish because his name was attached to it, but then it got bigger and says if they try to protect only themselves without looking out for those people close to them, then they will lose. And he says the Pop never forgot his people. Some people saw hard rock kids, he saw precious jewels, and he reminded him that diamonds are formed by pressure, but then you polish them and they shine. He holds up the ring and says Pop saw the shine in everyone that walked into his barbershop, cut their hair, listened to their problems, and made them feel better about the world and about themselves, and they have to strive on a daily basis to do the same for each other. That they have to do something that makes them feel better. Don't demonize the world, don't be terrorists, and don't just try to protect themselves. They need to try to make the world better, and sometimes it's going to have to be to standing up to a bully, especially if he called himself a friend. And he gives this great line where he says he doesn't believe in Harlem, he believes in the people that make Harlem what it is. Essentially, that he doesn't believe in, Harlem to take care of itself. The people need to rally up and do something about it. I mean, the Harlem's in a very bad state right now, and he believes that they're going to fix it together. I thought that was a great scene, though. I absolutely love the way that was done, and I thought it was just a great speech that Luke delivered, and the way that he just completely destroyed Cottonmouth. I think that's a perfect contrast of those two. Cottonmouth believes in fight or flight, while Luke believes in defending yourself through words, which is interesting to see. So he gives Agnes back her ring, and she says that he's one of them, and he says someone that gives a damn and embraces her. And after the funeral, he goes to Cottonmouth, says that he was wrong, he's glad he came. Embarrassing in public was much better than doing it behind closed doors in his cheap-ass club. Cottonmouth says to never confuse the battle with the war. Luke says the next suit that gets damaged, he's taxing him, and in some ways you kind of do feel bad for Cottonmouth, because again, this was his home, and it wasn't really Luke's to begin with, but Misty then says a hell of an impression he made in there. He asked if she just paid him a compliment. She says she didn't. Says he needs to stop with his pissing contest before more people get killed. He says maybe if they stopped him in the first place, no one would have had to die. She says she will get him in the right way. The system will win. He says to forget the system. Arrest leads to indictments, and indictments lead to pleas. There's always a bigger picture and a bigger angle. A slap on the wrist, and he says he's not going for that. She says that he just started World War III in there, and says he may be bulletproof, but Harlem ain't, and Harlem will suffer. So if he's not going to let them take him down down, then he needs to leave right now before he makes things worse. And he says he's sorry things couldn't be different between them, but he's not going anywhere. He will make sure that he brings Cottonmouth to justice, and that is the way the episode ends. Really intense stuff overall, but let's talk about the next episode and where I think the show is headed in general. So really another great episode. Like I said, this really was one of those character type episodes where it's more building plots, and I thought it was very well done in that regard. But again, there's a really great contrast between Cottonmouth and Luke. Luke is someone who is protecting the people and will do whatever he can to do that, but he doesn't have the ties to Harlem that Cottonmouth does. You know, he's seen it all, but Cottonmouth is someone who's grown up there all his life, and, you know, he's been raised on crime and things like that, and just seeing the way these two are completely just eating up each other, I think is so well done, and I really do like the way that's going. And Misty saying that Harlem is in danger, I don't think she's wrong. I mean, Luke feels that he's the savior of Harlem, but is he really? We don't really know. I mean, he says he wants to help Harlem, but is he enough, really? You know, is he strong enough to take down Harlem? I mean, he's not just taking down Cottonmouth, he's taking down Harlem in general, all the crime in Harlem. Is he enough to take it down? And we'll have to see where that goes, because I think that's going to be very interesting. No Mariah in this episode, surprisingly. This was the first episode of Cottonmouth where we didn't see Mariah, but I guess because Mariah, as we know, was played by Cottonmouth and doesn't really want to be with him right now, so I thought that was interesting. As far as that scene with, you know, Luke and Eddie, I thought was very well done, because it's very well showing that while Luke is a hero, people still are going to see him as someone who is very reluctant. I mean, they think that Luke's kind of playing God, if you think about it. You know, he feels that he's going to be the savior. He's going to be the one to fix all this, and we don't really know if that's actually going to be true. Is he actually going to be the one to fix this, or is he just too in over his head? We'll have to see. If anyone's in over his head, it's definitely Cottonmouth. I mean, Cottonmouth feels he has all of his chess pieces set up, and he has everything ready to destroy Luke, but we can clearly see, just from that speech, that Luke will always be one step ahead of him, and I don't think that Cottonmouth is going to end up successful. However, Diamondback, that's something I'm looking forward to, because we don't know much about Diamondback. We don't really know his origin yet, but clearly he has some sort of bullets, and he can, in fact, hurt Luke. And, you know, Shades, that's someone that does know Luke's weakness. I mean, even though Shades isn't nearly as strong as Luke, he can adhere to his weakness, and by doing that, Diamondback seems like someone who can, in fact, be stronger than Luke, but we don't know much about him. We'll have to see what's going on there. I think they're setting up his character really well, and I really do like the way that's going. Who is the picture that Misty had? I believe it was Reva, but we'll have to see the way that's going. And then everyone else getting, you know, suspicious of Scarf. I really like where this is going, because Misty feels that there's no way this could be true. That how could Scarf, of all people, her mentor, be this, you know, horrible person, and how could people be demonizing him? I mean, how do they have no soul? Like, how could they be doing this? But as we know, you know, Scarf really isn't the greatest guy, and I like that Scarf already, people are starting to get suspicious. I really do like the way that's going. I think it's very interesting overall. The scene where Cottonmouth kills all of his shareholders, I mean, I think it's really showing how cocky Cottonmouth is getting. You know, he really feels he needs to do this on his own, and how he feels he doesn't need an army. Again, Luke says he doesn't have a strong enough of army, because no, he doesn't. All he has is Shades, really, and Shades is not enough to take down Luke. Luke has pretty much is getting everyone on his side, except for Misty. Misty, I don't know if she'll ever be on his side, but we'll have to see where that's going. And then I guess the only other thing is Claire. How is Claire going to meet up with Luke? As we know, Claire wants to make, you know, her living as someone who is helping Inhumans, so how is she going to meet up with Luke? You know, what's their encounter going to be like, and what's she going to do for him? We'll have to see. Overall, guys, really great episode. Really do love where the show is headed. I don't really know how this is going to play out between Cottonmouth and Luke. Like I said, I think there's something definitely larger at play here. The fact this is going so quickly in episode 5. This is probably the most fast-paced Netflix show we've had. I remember in episode 1, I'm like, the show's going to be really slow burn. Yeah, now we're on episode 5, and there have been tons of people that have already been killed. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. Love your thoughts on it, and I will see you guys in my next one, which will be for the season premiere of The Flash, which I cannot wait for, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.